Yo, what is up YouTube? This is Sharpeye here and I'm bringing you guys another gameplay commentary. Today we're going to be playing Blackout. It's just a solo match. I think I get like 13 kills. So it's a pretty good gameplay, but today's not really that much about the gameplay. It's going to be more about the commentary. And I'm thinking about starting a new series, kind of like a political series. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I'm thinking about something like what's wrong with the government or something shit like that, or fucking conspiracy theories. I don't know, we're gonna call it something, but I mean it's not really conspiracy theories, so that's the whole thing, that it's not really just about that. I mean, obviously, some stuff is going to be talked about that might be a conspiracy theory that isn't like 100% proven. So basically I wanted to talk about our government and what is really wrong with our government, just my opinions of ways that we can make it better. So basically the first thing about government that I think needs to be addressed is lobbyists. Now, if you don't know what a lobbyist is, basically lobbyists are people who are kind of like a middleman between a corporation and a government. So basically the definition is groups hire lobbyists from corporations to private companies to nonprofits and unions to try and persuade government to pass legislation that favors them. Now, the only thing that's really wrong with this is that the companies that have the most money are going to have more leeway or more persuasion to push through these legislations, bills, whatever, laws, get it through Congress, the House, and even have the president on your payroll, but it's through this middleman, which is a lobbyist. So basically, let's say, for instance, I'm like Rockefeller, and I have like a shit ton of money, and the government just keeps trying to put some more regulations on this oil. Well, let me just throw some money at the government so that they'll relax the legislations and make it easier for me to make money, make it easier for my monopoly over the industry, make it harder for the competition or like small businesses to grow and stuff like that, shut them down real quick. That's basically what lobbyists do, and I think that that's a pretty fucked up thing. If you guys ask me, it kind of creates these kings and queens that kind of rule over everything, because they're the richest people, and they can hire basically anyone to do any job that they need them to do. They can hire assassins to fucking kill people, bro. They can hire lobbyists to fucking control the government. They're basically fucking kings and queens of the modern day, and I don't think there's really any checks and balances in politics, except for the politicians that are getting paid off with the checks and checking their balances. Oh yeah, cool, I got another fucking $1 million from this organization, and I guess I gotta vote this way on the bill or that way on the bill. Like, I think that's kind of fucking retarded. Like, there's not really morals into what you're deciding anymore. People try to say that there's nothing wrong with lobbying. Lobbying encourages people to play an active role in their government. It's protected by the First Amendment, right to petition the government. Well, I mean, if I'm gonna bribe a cop, do something illegal, that's wrong, right? That's against the law, it's a felony. But if I'm paying a politician that changed the law so that I can still do that thing that was illegal at one point, is that okay? I mean, I don't know. I think that it's kind of fucking wrong both ways. I think that people should have influence in their government, however, not directly influencing people that are in positions of power. I think that public speaking and getting a group of people and making a movement of people to vote one way or another, or something like that, or to make the politicians see, okay, there's a lot of people going to these rallies, a lot of people like what this guy has to say, or something like that. I think that is a better way to go about integrating people into government, rather than you can pay off the fucking president. Like, I think that's fucking retarded. 50% of Congress members become lobbyists after leaving Congress. This is a legitimate stat. 50% of all people in Congress, after they leave Congress, they become a lobbyist. So that's how intertwined this industry is. It's not a government, it's an industry, it's a business, just like anything else. It's just a business that has control over other businesses, which is fucking crazy. And like, big examples of why this is bad are mainly for laws that we want to get passed and laws that have been made, a long time ago that we need to get rid of. But we can't get rid of, or we can't amend any of these. So basically, the big one that I can think of is the tobacco and the opiate industry. So tobacco, that's cigarettes, anything with nicotine, cigarettes, vaping, anything with nicotine in it is what I consider big tobacco. And the opiate pharmaceutical industry, which is like, painkillers and stuff like that, oxys, perks, those are all opiates. They're trying to stop marijuana legalization, and I think that that's a bad thing. We shouldn't be trying to stop something from getting legalized just so that we can make money. I think that's just a pretty fucked up thing. Like, why are we going to make it just keep something illegal just so we can keep making profit? You can see like that big tobacco and the opiate industry, they don't want marijuana to be legalized because those are alternatives. People won't smoke cigarettes as much if marijuana is legalized. People will not choose opiate as their medication. Doctors will start prescribing marijuana more, and for pain. And then there's also, like, I'm sure other pharmaceuticals other than just opiates that marijuana kind of impacts, antipsychotics and stuff like that, antidepressants, anxiety medication. There's a lot of things, cancer patients, like a lot of different things that marijuana heals and has beneficial properties too. So I think that, marijuana definitely should be legal, at least medically and recreationally. Like, alcohol is legal, and alcohol is more dangerous. Like, you can overdose on alcohol, but you can't overdose on marijuana. You can overdose on opium, but you can't overdose on marijuana. So I think that marijuana should be legal. I think it's a lot safer than a lot of these other things that a lot of these other intoxicants that people revert to because marijuana is not legal. But that's just my personal opinion. People have different opinions. If you guys do have different opinions, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Obviously not being a fucking hater, but GMO, if you guys don't know, this is a smaller one. It's genetically modified organisms. Basically, plants are the biggest things that are genetically modified. However, we do slightly genetically modify some animals. Most of the animals are just crossbred or have added hormones. Not many of them are genetically modified, but I don't really like too many hormones and stuff in food, but that's besides the point. So basically, with GMO, there is a strain of corn that makes the biggest stalks. It makes the most corn, yields the most profit. It's anti-pesticide, it's anti-disease, so you don't even have to put pesticide on it because it's anti-pest already. They made the DNA to where insects that would eat it or diseases that would come upon it would not be a problem anymore. They basically made a super corn strain, which is what you eat when you eat corn, or when you have anything that has corn syrup in it. It's most likely from this company called Monsanto that makes seeds. They literally own the genetic makeup, the DNA of this corn. Now, that's kind of fucked up if you think about it. Like, a human, like if a human wanted to have like better DNA, they wanted their kid to have better DNA, like a company like Monsanto could own a specific DNA. If you had sex with someone else, impregnated them, and you carried that strand of DNA, they could in turn sue you or charge you for having a kid with their genetic makeup. And that's out of your control. You can't not pass that genetic makeup on when you have a kid, so you have to pay that price. And that's what I'm thinking of if it ever gets to humans, but that's long in the future. But even just as corn, it creates this monopoly to where Monsanto now owns all corn. And when corn farmers, they have to give their seeds back after harvesting and stuff like that back to Monsanto, because you can't have their genetic DNA makeup and replant them. Any seeds that you gather, you have to give back to them. You can't feed it to your fucking animals, which, you know, farmers used to do with seeds and grain and stuff like that. You can't do it, and so Monsanto has this huge monopoly over it, and it really hurts small farmers and stuff like that. And I'm sure with a bunch of other, you know, crops it's the same way, but I know specifically with corn, because corn is the biggest thing that America produces, and we have a lot of corn syrup in our products. You also have the oil and coal industry trying to basically stop alternatives. You have the huge BP oil spill, which, you know, should have shut BP down entirely with the regulations that they probably, you know, just blatantly disregarded, and with how poorly it was handled. And that was a long time ago. Now it's probably at least 5 years or more, maybe almost 10 years. That's crazy. But the BP oil spill and the whole oil and coal industry, well, the whole oil industry at least, you know, most likely started the war in the Middle East. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we kind of wanted to go to war in the Middle East, but I think that the oil industry had a big, you know, say in that. And then we have the arms industry, you know, the NRA, the National Rifle Association. You know, the US is practically the world's arms dealer, so you know, that's why gun laws are so relaxed in America as opposed to other countries like Canada. Like, you're not allowed to have, you know, assault rifles in Canada. Like, in a bunch of countries, in Germany, after World War II, Germany wasn't, like, their police officers weren't even allowed to have weapons. They weren't allowed to have pistols. So, like, countries that have stricter gun laws do have less gun violence. However, I think that America's problem is we already have such a saturated amount of weapons in America that, you know, adding restrictions to gun laws isn't really going to help that much, except for maybe, like, you know, a couple hundred years in the future when, you know, the guns surpass, maybe at least 100 years in the future where gun technology surpasses this and all the old guns are broken and shit. And then you could finally have control back over the gun flow. But America right now, there's no quick fix to fixing the gun crisis, I don't think, because there's too many guns. But I mean, obviously I'm going to talk about each of these topics more in depth, but this is more about lobbyists. So the reason that there hasn't been restrictions 100 years ago is because, you know, things like the NRA, even like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, when all of the mass shootings started happening with guns, it's just not helping, you know, America now. And then the healthcare industry, this is one that I really want to make a whole video dedicated on, because I have to rewatch the documentary that this part is about. But the healthcare industry, pharmaceuticals have always been a big lobbyist in the game, but they've gotten a lot bigger recently because of a big healthcare scandal, which you may have known. If you guys know Turing Pharmaceuticals, which the CEO was Martin Shkreli. I don't know how to say his name, but you guys might know his name. It might sound familiar. This is the guy who jacked up the price of AIDS medication 5,000%. When he bought the patent for AIDS medication, yet another thing, this is a chemical thing. So if I were to create this chemical, you know, this chemical compound to create this pharmaceutical, they could sue me. So it's not like I can, you know, like, it's not like pizza where like anyone can make a pizza, but if you use like our specific recipe, like, yeah, no, this is like, that's everything I want to talk about, you know, just lobbyists. Fucked up thing, bro. We need to get that shit out of here. Kind of a branch off of the healthcare industry. If you don't think healthcare has a lot of foothold in politics, then just look at welfare. You know, Obama passed Obamacare, literally healthcare implementation by the government. But anyways, I mean, that's pretty much all I want to talk about in this video. I didn't want to go too in depth into welfare, healthcare, or any of the anything else like tobacco and stuff like that. I'll probably make individual videos, but this is more about lobbyists in general. You know, how I think this is probably one of the biggest problems that has to do with politics. If you guys did enjoy, please, you know, leave a like, let people know that this is a good video. If you guys didn't, you know, there's always that dislike button, and comments down below let me know what you didn't like about it. And if you have any contrasting opinions but you thought it was a good video, then I would also love to hear your comments down in the description below. I hope you guys do enjoy this. This is Sharp Eye. Peace. Caught my last game by 300 points, bro. Let go.